The views and opinions of the host and guest of the following show may not be those of this radio network, its sponsors, or affiliates. User discretion is advised.
Welcome to
Weird News Weekly with
Diane Browne and
Norm Soldwish.
hello and welcome to another Weird News Weekly. I'm Diane Browne in Nottingham and my co-host is over there in Ohio. Hi Norm.
Hello, good afternoon, morning, whatever. We got a little bit of weather change. It went back to winter like overnight. No snow, no ice, but very close. Other than that, some people are planting their plants too early and they're freezing. But we're just surviving. We're all healthy here. And hope everything's going well over in the UK.
Yeah, not too bad over here. You know, we had the London Marathon and we had some sunshine for Easter and then it went back to winter and we had Storm Anna that took out electric for some people and 80-mile-per-hour winds.
Wow. You guys always get them high winds. No wonder everything's built of brick over there, stone.
Yeah. And this is a special.
Okay, what's the special about today?
Well, we're going a bit spooky because we have from My Haunted Diary, the Paranormal Explorer and music project producer James Garcia.
All right, welcome James.
Howdy.
Hello, thank you for joining us today. And you've got like a TV reality show on YouTube, haven't you?
Well, I guess you could watch it on the TV. With technology these days, TV is...
Well, they call it reality TV no matter how you watch it.
Yeah, I know. Unless you're a youngster, TV still applies. Television.
Yeah.
I'm an older sod, so I relate to the word or the description using TV to describe everything that's video. It could be internet, doesn't matter. TV. It's on the tube.
Yeah, that's right. It's on the tube. YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube in this case, or my tube, My Haunted Diary, through YouTube.
There's quite a few different ones now apart from YouTube as well, so you can put it out there all over the place, including Facebook.
Yeah, I'm not big on the Facebook anymore, per se. I'm really bad with social media in general, because it's where I want to promote my stuff, so I'm putting it out there through YouTube to share it and give exposure of what I do, but at the same time, and I have to use things like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram just because they're there, and I'll just post something when I have a new video out, but in general, I like to stay off the grid. I'm one of those that I don't like my private life so far that it's out there to the point where people can find out where you live, and you're exposing yourself to who knows out there. Really great people and some not so great people that maybe they get obsessed with you and they start stalking you, maybe have ill intentions. So I'm very aware of that, and I try to do less with things like Facebook now. I don't post when I went to dinner here last night, or this is a great place, and waiting for likes and things. I don't really care about that stuff too much.
Well, if you see my picture on Skype here, a lot of people comment on it, but that is my impression of Cousin It, and that is the closest you're going to see to my face.
Oh, yeah. That's hair. Okay, I wasn't sure if that was hair. It looked like it could have been a tree or something. I wasn't sure.
I get James's deal. When I stopped working, kind of retired, was an eBay seller there back in 2007, I explored these casting sites and stuff and found it kind of interesting, kind of like a YouTube thing, And then I ended up getting trolled by these trolls that are out there. It's almost like these guys are professional. But then on a blog site for this casting site, there was a picture of my house, my vehicle. I had pizzas delivered to my home. I didn't have one of those deals where the police came, but then I removed myself from all that activity because I didn't do anything wrong. I was just trying to be part of the community. And if they don't like you, look out. I know exactly what you're saying, James.
Yeah, yep, that's how it is. So I don't want to say it's an extension of what I do with paranormal, just being sensitive to spirits or entities, but with what is going out there in the world of existence and experience, there's more to it than that. I'm more afraid usually of the living than
Same here. Yeah, same here.
Yeah, they do more harm to you because we got physical bodies still. Once we're in the spirit world, all right, that's going to play more into how we deal with things, and whether we do special saging in the astral plane or more etheric planes that are less dense, depending on how you look at or view things like that are in the invisible world. And who knows how it really is. We're kind of guessing, and the whole paranormal investigative the field, it's experimental, and for anybody to say they're an expert, there's no experts out there. There's some that have more experience than others and have done more investigative work, but it's really in the dark stages of understanding. And heck, it's a lot of fun while we're here because it gives us something else besides what we are faced with, this reality of a physical world, the objective world. Nobody wants to disappear in that. We don't no longer exist. Some are okay with it though, and I'm all over the place as far as I don't pin myself down to one way of thinking, and I've studied all the religions and the occult, and I even being borderline atheist at times, I have some of that in me. So I like to keep an open mind to everything and not just say it's this way and no other way, because then you limit yourself to the possibilities out there.
Oh yeah. I got interested in the paranormal when I was 8 years old, and I saw my first ghost.
Yeah, it usually starts when you're young age and something happens that you can't explain and probably frightens you to some degree. And if you're interested in that, even if you're not, it scares you enough, it's going to stay with you, that experience. And some are more interested in it than others. As time goes on, they want to find out more. Others may be a little afraid of that and want to keep away from that whole way of thinking or experience, and they want to shut it off. And maybe it's the best thing for some to block that so they don't have to have those experiences that may be happening around them, but they're shutting off those senses that make them aware of it.
I think most people need to be aware because there's bad things out there now. 20 years ago wasn't. Now it's all demons and poltergeist and lots of negative activity going on.
Well, I think there's more than ever because of the exposure we have with this electronic age with media, and you can find out things instantaneous through the internet. Everybody's putting stuff out there, so you're more aware of everything, including the paranormal. There's more experiences happening because more people are conjuring, inviting things to happen. So yes, there's going to be more activity based on that.
Yeah, more Ouija boards about, and these electronic ghost boxes and things like that.
Yeah, all of which I have. So
yeah, no, I've seen your ghost box. They interest me, but I wouldn't want to use one in this house.
Well, it's better not. I shouldn't say it's better not to, but if you're going to do it in your own dwelling, you may have a noisy dwelling, and you don't know what you're bringing in, and you want to feel quiet in your own place where you don't have to deal with. You want to get away from that. You go to those things for those reasons, and you come home and you want some quiet and calm. In my case, I do have some of that happen. Even every place I've moved to, things are happening. It's the nature of what I do, and I have all these objects, and I have haunted objects and things. But to me, I can handle it. I'm pretty good with if it starts where I'm getting scratched and attacked from something I can't see, or I'm having a mental breakdown that's affecting me spiritually or mentally, then okay, that's a problem, and I have to work through it. And it's happened before, but I can say right now I've got a pretty good hold from where I'm at home, and I don't really try to conjure things here. I got Mr. Crutches living here, though. I call him Mr. Crutches. And I found the crutches in the attic from a previous tenant, and once in a while I hear the footsteps even in the attic where the crutches were, and other things happen here. So we call him Mr. Crutches, me and my wife.
It's funny you should say that, because when we first moved to this house where I am now, I was 8 years old and there was footsteps going around. So I got a tape recorder and put the tape on, record, and left it for half an hour. And then when I came back, I could hear these footsteps, but it sounded like it got a walking stick.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I don't know. It depends. I mean, you could look this way. It's fascinating. It's like, oh, I want to get a recorder and record it. That's kind of neat. Or you can also get scared, especially if you're by yourself.
You do investigations on your own, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Yes, definitely. But for me, if in my own place, my own dwelling, I usually will say, all right, cut it out. Don't want you around right now. I need quiet. You know, I just talk like a parent to whatever it is, whoever it is. And it usually works. But you got to really mean it, though.
Yeah, this house is active. Sometimes it's more active than others. But we do have a negative spirit here that belongs to my dad, so I can't get rid of it yet.
You're saying it is your dad or belong to your dad?
It belongs to my dad, and it hangs around him, and he used to live in the attic, and now it's moved out, and it watches me have a shower.
Oh, that's the worst.
And the cats have attacked the wallpaper where it stands.
Tell your dad to take it back. Is your dad still around, physically?
Yes, he is. I think there's something that he's brought home and it's attached to that, and so it's not very nice at all. It does scratch when you go in his room. It's hot, and my son's been scratched.
Oh, well, that's not good.
No, we just make sure it stays in his room.
Yeah, I'd say if he brought it home, I don't know if your dad is into this kind of stuff or not, and how he brought it home, but if he understands it, he should try to get rid of it and try to...
Oh, it's an angel. He's very religious, and things like that tend to cling to people who are religious.
Yeah, that's true. That could happen. As long as he's got a strong character and, for himself, a being of himself, that he has his own understanding and knows himself to the strength of where he can't let this stuff, take over him. He can possibly, just make it go away or tolerate it, and, he keeps its space, he keeps his.
Well, it's gone downhill a lot since it's moved in. Lost a lot of weight, and, you can see him going downhill gradually. You
say don't fight negative with negative, but sometimes I just, like, that parent thing kicks in for me, and I'm like, get the F out of here. I'm talking strong language, and, I start yelling and stuff to the point where that can work. But
oh yeah, I believe that you can you fight negative with negative. The black magic seems to be stronger than the white.
Although it's worked against me in some places where I've been that are, there's been some entities and whatnot, and I'm confronting them, and I've gotten scratched. So it can go both ways.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if you've watched, Diane, what you've watched as far as my videos go, or locations I've been to.
Yeah, I've watched quite a few, and the one with your wife as well. I thought, she's got to go with you because that's the only time she sees you.
She does go with me. Now, pretty much anything I do, she goes with me.
It's nice when you can find somebody that's got the same interests.
Well, there's one investigation. I've done so many things that I still haven't put out, and the thing is, I work a full-time job that's demanding, that's not, that I make my money doing, and it has nothing to do with the paranormal. So I do this on the side, and I just don't have all the time. Problem for me is the time it takes to go through all the videos and the audio and put it all together, edit it and all that, and make it a package video, make it a film, is so time-consuming for me. And that's the problem I have, because otherwise I've got an archive of so much stuff that I tend to get to. And things that are many years old, and I think probably some of my most scary stuff hasn't even been put out yet on YouTube. Eventually I will, but I'm talking even abandoned places, more asylums and sanatorium,
Yeah.
all that stuff. So
Yeah, bad things tend to linger, not exactly a haunting, but those things sort of linger in the air.
So I've had things happen after when I used to go to some of these places by myself and come back to my apartment. I had things that entered me, and I just had to fight and pray and do all this stuff to get this thing out of me. And I mean, I remember feeling like I was dying a couple of times. I thought, this is the end. You know, my body's going to be found, I'm going to be dead for who knows how long till my landlord or somebody comes to find out what the heck is going on. But,
wow.
Yeah, I've had it where it felt like the life was being drained out of me. I mean, drenched in tears, going into, like, what I would call cold sweats, my whole body in convulsions. And the feeling of dread was, I understand the feeling of dread now, which, until you experience it, you can just think, okay, it's, you know, this thing that you feel that your life is over and you're unhappy and all that. But it's much more than that. It feels like you have lost all your own being, and it's just like you're dying and you have no control. The control is gone. It's that bad, and it's a physical thing as well as a mental thing. So it just takes over and consumes you.
I've never got to that state. I've been to some very horrible places, and you don't expect that it's going to be bad until you get there. But these people say, oh, there's this place that's haunted and that place, so we get a little group together and go and check it out. And then if I get invited to different places, I'll take one or two people with me if I can. But I don't like taking people if I know that it's dark energy, because they're going to get affected over me. You know, it will attack them before it attacks me.
That's a possibility.
Because that's a weakness, a weak link.
That can happen. And you feel responsible because you brought them there.
Yeah, that did happen in a house, and I heard it say that one of the group should go to the bathroom, and he went to the bathroom and there was a huge spider in there. It was massive, and he wanted to leave after that, because he said he saw a spider, not just that one spider, there was one spider, but he saw hundreds of spiders.
Now, did you go to look and see the spiders there as well, or he just told you this?
No, we all looked. We all went and looked, and there was one spider, but he was saying that there was hundreds. They were all over the ceiling. They were coming at him over the floor. So I had to get him out. Yeah,
there's somebody who should not be investigating or exploring haunted places.
Well, not that one.
Yeah, he's not meant for that.
He'd been on a couple of others, and he'd been fine, and it was just that one. It was dark energy. The electric went, and we couldn't get the electric back on. The light, all we got was torches.
Wow, that makes it more interesting.
Yeah, it did.
Talk about making things a little more spooky.
Yeah, it's always spooky in the dark. Do you ever go out in the day for your paranormal?
I thought you were going to say in general, do I ever go out in the day? I'm a vampire, I never go out in the day. Yes, and to do investigative type stuff? Sure. Yeah. I mean, especially when I'm scouting for places that are, could be abandoned or something, or even not abandoned, but I want to see the place. I always like to see it in the daytime so I can see the details of the outside and inside while there's still light, if possible.
I've been looking at other videos where they've used ghost boxes, and they always seem to get better results in the day than those that go out at night.
Well, the night really, to me, is a few things why you want to do it at night. The creepy factor for yourself, and if you're going to make a film, for those that view it,
yeah,
creepy to watch. But it's also quieter at night, so you don't have as much noise from cars and people in general. They're all home for the most part in their houses, and it's quieter in your surroundings. And any businesses, they're all mostly closed. So that's another reason. Also, if you want to capture stuff visually in the infrared and the full spectrum, the stuff that does it where it's complete darkness and it doesn't shine light to cause interference, for that kind of a manifestation where you won't be able to see it because you have light shined on it. You can capture those things, and also maybe, spirits, they do partly manifest by the light around. And so if you have light, it can help sometimes where you can see certain things like in an orbish kind of way and whatnot, but in the dark you won't be able to see that manifestation the same way, where if it's harnessing like moonlight and whatnot, that will show up in the dark on your film if you have, like I said, infrared and full spectrum and using infrared emitters to light up everything, but really with your own eyesight you're not seeing anything lit up. It's for the cameras so that they can film in that night shot mode to see it later.
And then there's these orbs. I can't understand why we wasn't seeing orbs until only a few years ago.
Well, that's because of the technology we have.
Yeah, but I've seen them with my own eyes.
You can. I think that maybe you're more sensitive and you can see stuff that you couldn't before. You're more aware of it, and so it's like the unveiling of something that was there, and they say it's always been there, and you were not ready to see that. Maybe it's at a vibration where you couldn't see with your five senses, and then all of a sudden you can, where you're more attuned to that frequency now, and so it's unveiled, and you can see it now.
So it's a different... so I'm seeing a different dimension then. Because usually I used to see smoke, and if there's something stood there, I might be able to see it as a silhouette of a figure. But then suddenly these orbs started to appear around my house, and I could see them with my own eyes. I was watching Most Haunted, a DVD, and two orbs came out of the TV.
You're just saying the TV itself, and not from what was in the show. You saw it in the show, and it came out of the...
Came out of the television about 4 feet, and then they just dissipated.
There's a thing about orbs, too. I mean, there are literally, technically, orbs are also dust and moisture. Yeah. People can misrepresent them for bugs and things, but there's also another factor that is not those things. And they do seem spherical at times, these anomalies that are not those things. But, yeah, it's interesting that you're seeing that. And you mentioned Most Haunted.
We had to stop watching Most Haunted because every time I put it on, the lights used to flicker at the spirits were laughing.
Well, the show, I'll admit, because Most Haunted, a British-based group, but they have access like you would, not only just in England, but you have, Europe is more accessible. So you get these great places they go to. I know they've come to the States here in the past, but I wish the group from way back, I used to watch that when it first came out a lot, but the screaming and the yelling, it's like every little sound, it's like screaming. It's like, I want to turn up the volume to listen for voices, but I can't because I'm about to hear the loudest scream by 3 people in the group that are paranormal investigators and shouldn't be screaming all the time. And it's frustrating.
Yeah, well, they've done it so many years, I think. She now thinks that she should scream because everybody expects it.
Yeah, probably.
Does my head in when she starts screaming. I'm screaming when they come on a group with me. That's one rule, you don't scream. You can grab my arm and bruise it, but don't scream.
It's kind of funny because it's like, all right, let's listen. Maybe something will happen. We'll hear a sound. They hear a little sound, they all start screaming and running or whatever. It's like, well, what do you want? Do you want it to happen or you don't? But again, that's their take, or that's their style of doing investigating for film. Not mine. I wouldn't want to do it because that'd be annoying to me.
Yeah, I would not want to stand next to Yvette Fielding when she's screaming.
Right. She's been for so long, like you said. It's her style. It's the way they do it. That's fine, I guess. It's for entertainment.
Yeah, I was impressed with Zach Bagans and Ghost Adventures when it first started, but I think it's got like Christmas now and become commercialised.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Ghost Adventures when it first came out, and Zach Bagans, he's a very good speaker, and he's what should I say, is attractive to watch on television. He's a good character as a person, and well-spoken, and he's interesting and fun to watch. But, yeah, I mean, it's become, for a long time to me, it's like these other shows that instead of real investigative stuff going on and trying to capture stuff and show you these things, it's more dramatization. And, you know, this is what they say happened, and you hear the stories, and then a fictionalized version with actors showing you what they say happened, which is, you know, you might as well watch a horror movie or something that's not real. Zach Bagans and his group he's kind of become, you know, I try not to be negative and put things down, but it's just like acting. It's just an acting thing to me, and where's all the captures and stuff? It's more about talking about, oh, I feel this, I feel that, and and people freaking out and just talking, and it's not anything that to me is paranormal investigating like it used to do, which was more interesting.
I think they've got a lot of film footage of their heirs standing up on their arms, haven't they?
Yeah.
I got chills. Look at my arm.
Or I'm possessed again. I'm possessed, and he knocks the camera out of the other guy's hand. You know, one of the other members.
I do think that Zach Bagans has got something attached to him, and the house he bought in Indiana, I believe it was that and not what was in that house.
I think he's got something attached to him, but I call it a big ego. I still like the concept of Ghost Adventures, and I guess it's more nostalgic, the old Ghost Adventures, but if I try to watch the new stuff, and I do once in a while, I want to see what's going on, but it's just hard to watch for me, and it's the same for a lot of shows, but it's just nothing there for me to enjoy. It's not entertaining to me anymore, but he's been doing this for so long, and he's got so much praise, he's so popular. I mean, how could it not get to him, you know, that he thinks he's, you know, more than life, and it can affect you that way, and understand that. I don't hold it against him or anything. It's just the way it is. But to me, it's just not fun to watch. It's not entertaining, and it's not interesting.
It does tend to go now. You know, if he is as a demon somewhere, he will want to go and investigate it, and I think he's playing with fire.
Yeah, he is. I don't know what to think, but completely in that. I don't know when he's real and not real at times. I mean, and that I don't know if it's all a put on at this point, and he's so full of himself, or there's some real truth to some of the things that are happening. I mean, I think they still go to haunted places and creepy places at times, for sure.
They're always asking for places, but I won't give them any that I know of, because nobody knows about them. I've come across them by accident, and that's how they're staying.
Oh, so you've been contacted for scouting for places from the show?
No, they're asking people in general for places that they can go, because I know they've been to the United Kingdom and Europe, because they went down into the catacombs in France.
Right, which is interesting in itself. I saw that. I remember a camera got stolen, which I'm not surprised. You just leave it there, and, you know, it's a free-for-all. It's like going to an abandoned thing or a place that anybody can sneak into. That's going to happen. But that was interesting. I mean, the whole idea of going to catacombs, to me, would be something I'd definitely be interested in, to a point, and that I'm not going to go and get myself lost in there. I'm going to be careful at the same time, because I don't want to be one of those people that got lost in there and they find my body possibly many years later.
There's a pub in public house in Nottingham, and they've got caves underneath, and there's a cell that belonged to the castle above the pub, because part of it's cut into this hillside, and there's a hole, and they used to put a bucket down this hole to the pub, and they used to fill it with beer and it'd go back up. And they had the cells down there, and one cell in particular, nobody can stay there.
Ah.
Yeah, we've got some quite interesting things. I've had some very weird things happen around Sherwood Forest as well.
Do you do things on your own, you say? Or if you can't find somebody to go with you, would you do it on your own?
Oh, I have been on my own, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But, you know, I get invited to businesses and things like that as well. But I don't take a camera, I don't film it.
That's how I used to do. I used to not either, but then I'm talking many years back. But when the shows started coming out, like Most Haunted, and I remember the stuff that's iffy, but it was still interesting at the time. Like Scariest Places on Earth. It's like a sci-fi channel thing at the time, and it's questionable stuff. But just the fact that we're going to places that were haunted and all, I was like, when I'd see something that was captured, and then Ghost Hunters coming out, I was like, wow, that's a good idea. I like seeing this, having evidence you can archive and show. So I was like, I got to start doing that. That's why I started filming and getting devices that can record things. I want to start recording because I had so many experiences in my life. I could tell somebody and they're like, yeah, right, that's crazy. It's far-fetched, or you have nothing to show them. And it was like going fishing all the time and you want to catch the fish and be able to pull it up and look at it. It's that kind of a thing. So I started doing the filming, and that was it. I was like, I got to film. I got to capture this stuff and show what I get, because it's been happening for so long to me. Now I can show this is what you can capture, and I have evidence now. So it's.
My son's more into the technical side. We went to this church, it's very old. There's actually little crosses. The knights that were on the way to the Crusades, every time they came up to a church, they'd carve a little cross in the wall. And it's got all these little crosses in it, because they used to leave from Nottingham Harbour. That's why they lost the Crusades, because by the time they got there, the swords were blunt. But that's how old this church is, and just me and my son went, and he was photographing, and I took pictures, and none of them came out. It was all black. My battery is drained in my camera, and I got a recorder, so I was recording, and I was saying what I'd seen there in a previous time when I just took a shortcut through. I saw a lot of people in period dress, so I was talking about that as we're going down the footpath, and my son wanted to photograph me, and I says, no, I don't want you to photograph me, because I don't want you putting it online or anything. And I regretted it after, because where we'd been, there was all these orbs, and I'm like, yeah, okay, it's dust. But when I left, all the orbs left, and he was taking photographs, and there was all clear, not one orb, not one grain of dust floating about or anything. And he said that he thought they were all around me, because I was saying what I'd seen and talking about the place as I was walking down, and he said that they followed me.
It'd be interesting if you did let him take a picture and you see like a figure standing right beside you. That would really be something awesome to have.
Yeah, it would. I know police used to walk by that place at night, and quite a few of them have seen the ghost of a monk.
Ah.
I've heard them. I heard them once, but I've not seen any.
What kind of sound would a monk make?
Well, they were chanting in the church.
Ah.
So I stopped, and I've got to go up to the church, and I'm listening at the door, and then this car came past, needed a new exhaust. I think it sounded awful. And by the time the noise had gone past with the car, the church was silent.
Wow, so is this place in use still, or is it an abandoned place, or is it sitting there historically, just museum, or?
No, it's still in use. My grandson was christened there last year.
Wow.
I was christened there as well. Yeah, I love that church. It's very haunted.
So when you were christened, was it like a baptism with water?
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
The monks were there, and they used to put people up that travelled through Sherwood Forest. And of course, when Henry VIII came along and decided that he was going to be head of his own church, and they had a Reformation, the people asked if they could keep the church, but they literally pilfered all the other stone, because it was a huge monastery.
Wow.
You can still see it in buildings in town. You can tell that's where it came from, that church.
Oh, so it's that pieces of the church are distributed.
Yeah, the ladies' chapel is barely anything of that left.
But it's all around the town, you're saying, pieces of it are used.
Oh yeah, they built other buildings with it.
I was just thinking of Norm, because he's in Ohio. There's a town, and it just escapes me the top of my head, but I don't know if it was a prison, something really old, and they say it was haunted, and they took parts of that and built other, I don't know if it was like stone walls or like around the town or parts
Would it
of
be in a fort?
No, it's Mansfield Prison, Mansfield, Ohio.
No, Mansfield's still standing, though, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's something else. It's another town in Ohio, and I remember first seeing it on Scariest Places on Earth, and there's different haunted locations throughout this town, and it's because of this haunted, and I think it was a prison or something that's no longer existing. They took bricks and parts of it and built sections of other places from it, and that's why they say it's haunted or got haunted, those places from that. Residually, probably, mostly, but it's hard to say. I can't believe I can't remember the top of my, there's so many places out there.
Just to touch base real quick here, I've been listening to you two talk, and what keeps me interested in what you two are discussing is my whole life I've had some unexplained things happen to me, and I always brushed them off as, well, I guess when I think of dreams, I think, well, you have to, in your dreams or nightmares, whatever you want to call them, you see things and then your head puts them together wrong or whatever in your nightmare or dream, and that some things don't make sense when you wake up. Well, one of the things that bothered me with my first marriage is my first wife. I met her at 24, this was back in 79. Her father died a week before I met her, and I never met the guy. I mean, he was dead. And then I dated her for 5 years, got married, and then I had a nightmare of him in my dream. He was talking to me or screaming at me, telling me how I should take care of his daughter. And I found it weird because I could see where if I ever had a conversation with a guy, that maybe I was just dreaming this stuff and my mind was just out there. But that bothered me my entire life. And then I remember I lived near Fort Meigs, which is where we defeated the British back in 1812. A lot of Indians died here in the community I live in. A lot of trails that houses were built on. And I remember in bed one night, I saw this I don't want people to laugh at this, but this is what I saw. I saw a little miniature skeleton people. And this one was the head guy was waving people across my ceiling. And it was bright lights. And I'm thinking, I'm in the middle of sleep in that zone. And not awake, but not asleep. My wife's sleeping next to me. And then a couple of days later, it happened again, and I tried to wake her up. I told her in advance, I'm going to try to wake you up and let you see these things. So when I went to hit her in the side to wake her up, because I saw him again, that little guy noticed that I did that, and he kind of disappeared. That's unexplainable to me, And I've seen UFOs. I saw a UFO. The people used to laugh at me about that. I chased the UFO for about 30 miles. Saw it, no sound, blah, blah, blah. It was huge. So there's a lot of unexplained things in my 60 years on this planet that keeps me interested in what you two talk about. And that's probably why I'm not a non-believer, because I know there's something going on. Something going on somewhere with this kind of activity.
Most people, I think, have had in their lifetime experiences they can refer back to. There are always those naysayers that they just want to dismiss everything, but yeah, for the most part, anybody you talk to has stories. Now, yours borders on, extraterrestrial stuff, too, it sounds like. Especially when you're in that lucid dreaming state and you start seeing these odd things, like the little skeleton things you're talking about. Makes me wonder if you're seeing them that way because they don't want you to see them as they really are. It's a possibility.
I live in a house that was built, the original one-room house was built in 1865. Some people have told me over the years that this could have been a trail at one time. There could be dead bodies. Who knows? People could have died here.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how much I believe or don't believe. All I know is there's something that is unexplainable. I mean, I've cheated death a couple times. I mean, a best friend of mine got killed in a car accident. I was supposed to be there. Then all of a sudden something happened like an hour before. And the next morning I found out he died. And then I think about, wow, I would have been in the passenger seat. I would have been dead. I mean, just things like that go, wow, how did that happen?
And you wonder, was there an intervention there, or your own higher being or something that knew this subconsciously, and that's why you didn't do it, just for your own survival, instinctively, or some angel or some other being out there looking over you intervened. You just don't know. You wonder when things like that happen. I just thought of a movie, Dead of Night, which was a British movie from 1945 or so, and it was a whole bunch of supernatural stories. I don't know if you know that one, Diane, if you remember that movie, Dead of Night.
No, I don't remember that one.
That's a great movie. But it's one of those things. One of the stories is about this guy had this dream about this. It was a story about a bus that some weird stuff happens. He doesn't get on the bus when he sees it the next day because it scared him from his dream. And the fact that he didn't get on the bus right after it got in this big accident, it goes off a bridge and everybody dies. So his life was saved because of that dream, which didn't have the exact same sequence of the story other than stay away from the bus kind of a thing. And so he did.
And then I met this person on the internet, and I did a radio show down in Florida, and Diane knows this story. I go down into the studio of this guy, first time I met him, and I did a 2.5-hour show in Florida for Bike Week back in 2009, and my wife was taking pictures, and that big orb, remember that, Diane, right above my head?
Yes, yeah.
And it's like, that's huge, and I'm thinking, all right, this has got to be explained. There's got to be something in this room that's going to be reflecting off the lens that made this orb. I go, this isn't an orb. This is just something that, just the way the picture was taken is what I tried to tell myself. But I looked at that picture for hours and hours, and I was even in that studio looking for things that could have made that shape, like a giant golf ball is what it looked like. And it's just weird stuff like that,
It looked like a nucleus inside it, and it was the only picture with that orb on it.
Yeah, it's weird. It's not like I had all these orbs all the time in these pictures she was taking. She was standing in the same spot taking most of these pictures. It's not like she was moving around and it just could have been a reflection. Or in my mind, I thought, well, it's just a reflection. It's not what is an orb, Some people say, it's just dust on the lens, Norm. I'm thinking, well, I don't know, man. Look at that thing. That's an unusual object. That's all I said. And I left it like that,
Well, by the way, I just wanted to mention when I said that place, a haunted town in Ohio, I was wrong. I'm realizing it's in Illinois, the town, not Ohio. But there's plenty of haunted places in Ohio, like you mentioned, that prison. So, But yeah, there's all types of things, things show up as orbs. And I remember when Diane mentioned being able to see with her own eyes in the daytime, and I remember that happening to me in Florida. And I think it was in St. Augustine. I'm pretty sure it was in St. Augustine many, many years ago, in an old bookstore that doesn't exist there anymore. But and the place is known to be haunted, actually. I asked them about it because the place was so old, and some of the people that worked there started telling me all these stories, and so I was like, all right, there's plenty of things going on in this place.
Isn't that funny, Diane? St. Augustine wasn't far from where I was.
No. It is a very old town, and, Florida, there's a Palm Coast, part of the Bermuda Triangle, actually, it's land there.
Wow. I lived in Florida for many years, and I have family that still live in the St. Augustine area from way back. Spent plenty of time there. The lighthouse, there have been talks haunted way before the ghost hunters. I used to go in there and with my cousin investigate that place. But, I mean, there's some footage I have. I didn't film a lot back then, or I didn't film at all at one point. But I do have some film footage, and eventually I'm going to put something out with me and my wife. Like 2 years ago, we stayed in St. Augustine at one of the haunted inns there up by the water, and so we did some night investigation there, and we went around. It was cold. It was unfashionably cold, but it was strange because it was like in the late upper 40s, which is unusual for St. Augustine. So everybody was too cold. Everybody was inside. It's such a tourist trap now, and I used to love going there before it was that way. So we went all around in the dark at night in St. Augustine, going to the cemeteries and everything else, and there was nobody on the streets. So we got to walk around and film a bunch and went to the Castillo. And yeah, so we probably captured some cool stuff that night. And I did the lighthouse again with my cousin. I have probably some film when I went back and did a night investigation, but was with a bunch of other people. But accumulatively, I have stuff from St. Augustine, and eventually I'll probably put out a few episodes just based on that stuff.
Yeah, I like Florida. It seems to keep jumping out at me all the time. Florida's always there.
It's a place to retire for a lot of people.
Yeah, we did have an exodus of people from Britain going to Florida in the 80s and 90s. So there is a lot of British citizens out there.
Yes, one gentleman from England that moved to Florida, and I think I'm trying to remember the area, it's Delray Beach. And he brought with him a pub that he loved that was from England with him, supposedly haunted already before he brought it. I don't know how they did it, but they've got the building, and it sits there in Delray Beach, and it's a place to go, and they have a lot of music and stuff. It's a nice little pub. Over the years, I've gone there when I'm visiting in Florida, and yeah, so the place is touted as haunted, but I don't think the guy's into allowing for investigations going on there, though.
No, a lot of them don't here either. They try to downplay the fact that the pub's haunted.
Yeah, I understand. They're not looking for that kind of, I wouldn't call it business per se, or they don't want that kind of reputation. They don't need it because they're doing very well. Their business is thriving with customers. They don't need to introduce that other way of looking at the place when it's doing well, and they're worried about losing customers.
I know most haunted have been to a few, and then after they've been, they plaster it around. We're haunted, we do haunted tours, and that does bring the money in.
Yeah, it depends on the place. Some actually use it in their favor and publicize it and actually bring in more. People just come just to want to be around the place, and maybe they'll eat or drink there or whatever that the place is normally used for, but to know they're in a place that has this haunted reputation and just to experience being in there. Now, as far as, allowing for paranormal investigations at night, a lot of these businesses may try it and then they give up because I understand it's just too much for them. They don't want to have to be around at night and have another business going, a 24/7 kind of business. It's too much on them, and sometimes they have some weird things happen with those that they allow for investigations. Maybe something bad happens to somebody, then it comes a liability, that kind of a thing. So I understand.
There used to be a house, it's still there, this house in Lancashire, and he claimed that this rundown house was haunted, and he used to have groups go. So there'd be like 40, 50 people, and you'd pay £200 for a night, but you wouldn't get bed. I know a group of people that went, and he wanted you to do it as a dare and get sponsorship for a charity, but it was still getting £200 a head, and it was very difficult to get hold of him to get tickets. But they used to do these events, and I know people that went that didn't believe in ghosts. They went just for a laugh, and they ended up coming away believing. It was evidently quite haunted, this house, but what he did was he renovated it from all that money, and within 5 years he'd done everything he wanted and paid the mortgage off and said, "We don't do any tours here now."
I guess, it seems to an end.
Yeah, it did. He was helping charities and himself as well.
There's so many places out there that I'd like to go to that are well known for their historic events that happen there, or tragic events probably, and known to be haunted, but they got such a big reputation that they charge way too much money. They're difficult to deal with, and that, like you said, they're hard to get a hold of, whatever the case may be. I just stay away from some of those now because it's just too popular. There's so much traffic through those places. I just don't need that.
You can't really get any proof when you've got different groups going around these asylums and hospitals, and there could be 100 people people there in different groups doing investigations, so it sort of spoils it.
Yeah, if you're going to do it, it's better not, if possible, if you can afford it and they'll rent it out to you with a small group of people or just yourself or a couple of people with you. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I'd prefer to have a small group, no more than 8, including myself. That's my sort of limit, so that I can keep an eye on them or try to. We went to one place and I didn't read up about it. I don't like reading up about it before I go. All I knew was it was a monk, and a lady had a white top on, and they all started dispersing. This is at night, late at night, and we probably shouldn't have been there, you know. And I'm saying, come back together. And then I saw this white figure, and I'm saying, Sharon, don't go away. And she pops out from behind a tree and says, I'm here. So I looked back at this figure in white, and it had gone. And it was like 4 years later that I found out this monk wears white.
And unfortunately it didn't film, so you didn't get to capture that.
No, we didn't. We wasn't filming. No, because somebody had taken us there and said, I've got this brilliant place that I can show you that's haunted, and there's a monk, and he actually killed somebody. This monk is responsible for this man's death, because he'd been to work and done the night shift, and it was crack of dawn, and he was coming across and taking a shortcut through this place, and he saw the monk, and he collapsed and he died of shock about 3 days later. And that is in the parish records that he died through seeing the monk.
Well, I mean, you hear these stories even with haunted objects where if you look at them or do something or touch them, like that Annabelle doll, that you could have death happen to you and you could die from that. And somehow a bad event is going to happen to you. You know, you're all of a sudden you're cursed because it's a cursed thing. So they're saying that about this monk.
Well, they're not saying if you see him you die, because the other people have seen it. It's just that this one man wasn't expecting it, and he was so frightened that he died.
Oh, like a banshee. Look out.
It doesn't take much for some people.
When I was younger, like anybody, when you first have these experiences, you get so scared. But, you know, you're intrigued at the same time. This guy was not one of those people. He was just scared and probably just wanted nothing to experience in his life other than just the calm, regular life with the birds chirping and the bee buzzing. I don't know. That's too bad. I mean, this is a guy who scared himself to death, you know.
He did, basically. That's what it was. He scared himself because of seeing the monk, and he was so frightened. There's other people that's seen this monk, and lots of things has gone off there. They did some renovations, took up the floor and found a skeleton underneath it with a bullet in it.
Oh, I can't imagine some of the stuff you have out there in Nottingham and England in general. I mean, I've been to England, but it's been so long. I'm talking, the last time I was there was probably like 1990. The time I was in England for traveling, for some reason, it's between like 1988 and 1991. And sometimes just for a throughfare to go somewhere else. When I used to play music, perform music, which I stopped doing way back. But I remember going to Shakespeare's birth home, Westminster Abbey, and the Stonehenge. I mean, I went to these places, but so long ago.
Yeah, Stonehenge is a very mysterious place.
And when I went there, you could just go up to it. They had I remember they put like a rope. You could just go under it or go over the rope. It was nothing. And just go to the stones. But I'm sure now it's completely different.
Oh yeah, they've had a lot of arguments and going to court because the Druids weren't even allowed on there. Because they've been performing a ceremony there for years, even though it wasn't originally their structure. But people were chipping away at it. They put graffiti on the stones and everything, so they put fencing around it and wouldn't let nobody close enough to it. And the Druids did manage to get the courts to, because they weren't going to do anything destructive to Stonehenge, so they do allow them to go round the stones now.
Oh, good. I'd love to go back and experience that again. Back when I did, I guess this is a long time ago, before I was filming and anything like that, or even thought about that. And, this is way before we had anything called a cell phone and before internet, any of that stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, knowing what I know now and with my experience, that's a place I would love to go back to. But in general, in Europe, in England and whatnot, so many great places.
Yeah, well, we're ancient.
Yeah, you're ancient. For us here, we mentioned Florida and St. Augustine. That's as ancient as we get. That Castillo from the 1600s. That's as far back as we can go. For you, you can go. Well,
our church was started in the 10th century.
There you go. So
yeah.
We do have some ruins here, but they're not that old. That's all.
That's because you keep digging them up.
We have some vandalism here too. It's so bad. This need to destroy things. The youth love to destroy stuff.
I've heard that nearly every building in Queens is haunted because they're all built on cemeteries.
Oh yeah. Well, you saw where I was with the Houdini. You mentioned that. That's in Queens. It's borderline between Queens and Brooklyn, but it is Queens. And there's so many cemeteries that exist still out there. That particular one was abandoned for a while, but they're starting to do some upkeep. But that building, is torn down now, the one I went into. But yeah, there are lots of graves out there all over the place. And I'm not surprised. I mean, how long have humans been on this earth and how much death, well, let's just say humans in general, there's bodies all over the place. So
I'm sure there's a lot of British troops there because of the war as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. So you have the British and the Spanish is big over there, a lot of killing, and then the natives, they call American Indians not by choice. It's just they got that label. But so yeah, unfortunately, as prisoners, and they got the bad end of the stick, so to speak, being a native. But so yeah, a lot of death between those groups out there,
yeah, especially in that area as well, because that's where the British sort of colonised.
What if they did beheadings when they were there?
It was hanging, and they used to enjoy drawing and quartering people, but it'd been mainly hanging. Beheading is a honour, and so you had to be titled.
Oh.
It was only for the gentry. If you'd got a title, you were a lord or something like that.
It's almost like a caste system that was brought over to India from the British, the way I'm thinking.
Yeah. And we are out of time.
Oh yeah, we just could have kept on going, and I feel like we barely touched on anything, but we touched an hour's worth of things.
We did, yes. We've talked a lot about different things, and your videos can be found at My Haunted Diary at YouTube.
Right.
And you're going to be putting some more on soon, so get over there and subscribe.
I just put a new upload, which is the final episode of my time at the New Yorker Hotel, staying in the Nikola Tesla suite. So check that out.
He's getting a lot of media coverage at the moment, the Tesla company.
You mean the other Tesla guy who owns the car and whatnot?
Yeah, they're doing an awful lot.
Oh yeah. He's a good business person, savvy, and he's very bright, and he's an engineer, and you got to give him that.
There's still people against the technology.
Yeah, I am partly too, but I at the same time use it a lot. So
free electricity.
Yeah. Tesla had the right idea, except that it wasn't something that was going to make money.
Exactly.
Well, thanks for showing up, James. I appreciate it. I enjoyed the show. I will check your YouTube out and probably get sucked into watching all your videos.
Yeah, it's going to be some sleepless nights.
Yeah, I got all day to watch them.
And there's your website, www.myhaunteddiary.com.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you both for having me on.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. It's been a really quick hour.
Well, we'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, I'd like that. Yeah, we'll get you back near Halloween.
There you go.
And thank you for listening, and we will be back next week with more weird news. So until then, take care.